Downtown businesses aren't back. 25% of office space is still vacant. RTD passengers are reminded they're not allowed to use the bathrooms at Denver's largest train station. Gee whiz. A Republican candidate for Secretary of State thinks that Coloradans want to take the politics out of running elections.
They want to restore that professionalism and that fair referee and get away from the polarizing partisan politics.
And people in prison are writing about their lives, the good and the bad, the present and the future.
His youngest sister, Tegan, said he was a dumbass, always doing dumbass things. I hope we can say that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you can say this, because this is next. Pandemic restrictions are gone, yet a quarter of Denver's downtown office space is vacant. Now, even if those office workers are happily zooming into meetings from home, it's changed the game for other businesses in the city. Our Steve Steger gets us started with that story.
It's lunchtime at the new Carmine's Italian restaurant in McGregor Square.
Especially at lunchtime, office workers are what we all depend on. And you can tell sitting in the restaurant now that it's a bit lonely.
Lunch has been lonely since the restaurant opened its doors here last summer.
We need to be serving around 75 people a day to make things make sense. And today, I believe we're up to 25.
Pretty standard, owner Brad Ritter says, but hard to believe with the building that towers over his patio.
9 stories in this project alone, hundreds of people expected to be working there every day, several hundred people working every day, but right now it's just a trickle. It's quiet.
A little too quiet.
I'm of the impression that they're essentially leased and waiting for people just to come to work.
Downtown offices haven't recovered since the start of the pandemic. A new survey from the commercial real estate firm Cushman & Wakefield found commercial vacancy in Denver's central business district is about 25%.
We're actually sitting at about 40% of our workforce back at peak times.
Courtney Garrett is the newly minted director of the Downtown Denver Partnership, who slipped us in for a Zoom on the train back from a meeting at DIA. She talks to CEOs of companies downtown daily.
Overall, the tone is really work from office with more flexibility, and what that means for each company varies.
Garrett says when the pandemic hit, downtown lost about 100,000 people in a snap, and with those people, a bit of vibrancy.
We need to continue to bring people back, to build with programming and activity, to bring that perception of vibrancy back.
Both Garrett and Ritter told us they think people are coming back soon.
I'm expecting it to be happening in a matter of days. That I think by the time we get through the month of May, we're going to see a different level of business.
Ritter and Carmine's will continue to adjust until they do.
We've made it this far. I'm not planning to go anywhere.
Now, Garrett told me more businesses like DaVita and VF Corp are expected to announce return to the office plans in May. But the truth is, a lot of businesses are going to adopt a hybrid model. Some work from the office, some work remotely. That's likely here to stay. Garrett says she believes if you build a cool culture downtown, people will want to work downtown. She says that has a lot to do with creating cool places, quite like McGregor Square, the pedestrian-friendly areas where people, if they're at work, can just kind of pop out of their office and pop over and grab something to eat.
And that's a perception thing. But I mean, a lot of life is perception. You walk downtown, you either think to yourself like, oh, this feels like the old days, or, oh, you could swing a dead cat and not hit anybody.
But the perception is interesting. When you tell people down there it's 25% vacancy, keep in mind that 25% is offices that have left their office space, right? They're not leasing anymore.
Yep.
If you say 25% to some of the businesses down there that serve office workers, they'll say that seems low. Seems like there are more people gone than in those offices, people who just aren't coming back. It's going to take a lot of work. Got to fix the transportation system to get people downtown. And you have to build that kind of culture to make people want to come and work downtown.
People want to be around people.
Yeah.
And they want to feel safe, and they want to be able to get there easily. All right, Steve, thank you. Speaking of, as RTD takes steps to clean up drug use and crime at Union Station, a reminder today that simply being a paying train passenger does not give you the right to take a leak at the city's big train station. Move along, riffraff. This rule's come up in the past, and CPR reporter Andrew Kenny brought it up today when he was told by Union Station security that RTD passengers are not considered customers at Union Station, so you can't use the bathroom. The private company, Sage Hospitality, they're the ones who run the show at Union Station. And they told us today, yes, the restrooms on the main level are for the people who are shopping and eating there, the guests of the Crawford Hotel, for Amtrak customers, but not for RTD passengers. As a totally unrelated side note, RTD offers reduced fare passes so people with low incomes can ride. Sage Hospitality's message to everybody riding RTD through Union Station is, hey, hold it, and keep holding it. So we're happy to fact-check any rumors that get some momentum in our community, and we can tell you more definitively that Westminster police say that the Wayne Carl middle schoolers who were hospitalized last week, a few of them at the same time, did not overdose on fentanyl. There was an incident on Thursday. School notified families that 3 students had a problem. Westminster police tell us the students went to the hospital as a precaution after they took some other illegal substance. Police aren't saying what, but they insist to us that it was not fentanyl. Before we know whether Democratic State Representative Matt Gray will get convicted of drunk driving, we know this. He won't get reelected to the State House. He's backed out of that race. This is body camera video from Representative Gray's arrest in Broomfield last week. He's suspected of driving drunk. He was stopped from picking up his kids from an after-school program while police were summoned. He told police that he wasn't drunk, just having a panic attack. A vacancy committee in Broomfield is now going to pick the new Democratic candidate on Sunday. That's going to be too late to reprint ballots with the new name. So, in the primary, a vote for Gray will be a vote for the new candidate who's picked by party insiders. Who needs 2 different political parties when you have one that fights as much as Douglas County's Republican commissioners? They have again gone 2-on-1 to remove a colleague from chairing their meetings. They rotate who gets to be in charge because they couldn't agree on who should do it. Commissioner Laura Thomas's opposition to the idea of bringing up a ton of water from the San Luis Valley to develop Dougco has her on the outs with her 2 fellow commissioners, Abe Layden and George Teal. For the second time, they blocked Thomas from leading their meetings. This time, accused her of trying to get a hold of the private information of people who support the water project. Thomas called her ouster a politically motivated stunt over a water project that she refers to as a boondoggle. Boondoggle's a great word, and it also pretty fairly describes all of the time that Dougco commissioners have been spent fighting over who gets to sit in the big chair at their meetings. Colorado's Republicans, as well as unaffiliated voters who are participating in the GOP primary on June 28th, have some pretty clear choices in each of the big contested races. We have invited all of the candidates for governor, Senate, Secretary of State to join us here on Next. Tonight, Republican Secretary of State candidate Pam Anderson. She rejects claims of election rigging. She says she would avoid the partisanship of both Democratic Secretary of State Jenna Griswold and Republican candidate Tina Peters.
You can look at my proven record as a county clerk. For example, I will not do any sort of political endorsements as an election official. I will not take policy stands on things that will likely come forward as an initiative to go before the voters. I think I was a softball umpire, a baseball umpire in college. I know how this works. I know that voters begin to suspect whether or not the process is fair, and that's what undercuts it. I wouldn't forward an investigation appropriately to law enforcement and then fundraise off of it while the investigation is going through, like my opponent Jenna Griswold does.
You're talking about the Tina Peters case. She fundraises quite actively off the Tina Peters case, and she was involved in the referral to law enforcement.
I think there are bright lines from a professional ethical perspective. I think Coloradans expect more for this office than political partisan behavior.
Your opponents accuse the current Secretary of State of illegal behavior. Have you seen anything like that?
I have not observed that, but I have observed Jenna Griswold putting her thumb on the scales in the regulatory environment. I believe this is a profession, and there are ethics that go with this, and being a partisan, hyper-partisan actor and using the power of the office to penalize your political enemies is not something what we need. We need to return this office back to the tradition of professionalism and training and a fair referee.
Polls show that a majority of Republican voters falsely believe that elections are rigged. You do not promote that false claim. Should those Republicans even consider voting for you?
Absolutely, and I don't believe that most Republicans believe that. I actually think I have faith in the voters, both for the June primary and going on into November. What I know as a former election official, as a former Jefferson County clerk and recorder, and a municipal clerk, that we built a system that you don't have to say, hey, we're your government, trust us. We have verifiable elections here in Colorado. And so we vote on a paper ballot. We have robust post-election audits. And I'm the candidate with the professional background and experience to be able able to communicate to those people of good conscience that have questions about how we do elections in Colorado and answer those questions.
Just a portion of a 15-minute conversation with Pam Anderson, where we discuss in depth secure elections and also touch on what she thinks about conservative activists suggesting the current Secretary of State should be executed. The full unedited interview is up right now on the Next YouTube channel.
The histories of people who wind up behind bars are usually told by others.
Power that this exercise was meant to give to you was the power of the storyteller to finish your own story and how that might go.
Some inmates in Canyon City are writing about the best and worst they've done with the help of a newspaper man. Next.
Inmates, and any of us, honestly, can sometimes be defined by the worst or the dumbest thing we've ever done. In the case of inmates, that's certainly what you're going to find if you search for their names online. Inside the Fremont Correctional Facility in Canyon City, a journalism professor challenged inmates to write their own life story, the good and the bad. Our Katie Eastman and photojournalist Ann Herbst take us to class.
The facts of your life up to this point are fixed. They've happened.
Every life has a story.
Denver native was born May 7th, 1977.
The narrator gets to decide how it begins and ends.
His life revolved around a duality of calm and chaos.
So at Fremont Correctional Facility, the incarcerated write their own.
Everybody should have their story told, and that's why I wanted you to write your own. Yeah.
John Moore asked his students to write their obituaries.
Nobody should be defined by one incident in their entire lives.
When he's not reporting for the Denver Gazette,
That's a good editor question.
John teaches a class that helps these men and women craft the Inside Report, a newspaper sent to all 17 Colorado prisons.
All journalism starts with solid reporting and good storytelling.
They have learned to write about others.
At first it was hard to find anything AJ didn't favor in life.
Asking questions about themselves is tougher.
You know, I was 12 years old when my best friend got murdered next to me through a drive-by. So, you know, death is very familiar to me.
These stories begin before they got here.
There were times our parents were nowhere to be found.
Always keeping his loved ones close and involved in his life, whether they wanted to or not.
Cellmates read words the authors know by heart.
He donated bone marrow. Bone marrow.
Some read their own.
His first pet was a white rabbit that he named it Roger.
Prior to his methamphetamine addictions, Sean was a senior lead controller of operations at the Consolidated Space Operations Complex.
The obituaries give insight into what led them here.
Patrick had said he struggled with neglect and abuse growing up.
Their stories,
Some people knew about his crime, some didn't.
created victims.
DOC number 185767 stayed hush-hush. The family was embarrassed.
You end up creating yourself based on things that you never expected to happen.
This is a chance to create an ending other than their crime.
Post-incarceration, he moved back to Pennsylvania, where he joined with his sister Kelly to create a non-profit marketplace featuring formerly incarcerated business owners and employees.
And his last days was spent on the beach of Florida watching the sunset.
Telling one's story doesn't happen often.
To readers, he was John Moore, but to his family and friends, he was always Johnny.
And the stories heard here have already become a part of another's.
When the pandemic of 2020 threw Moore out of a job, he was asked to teach an introduction to journalism class for the staff of a prison newspaper called Inside Report at the Fremont Correctional Facility in Canyon City. He considered it to be one of the great thrills of his life, he told anyone who would listen.
For Next,
30, end of story.
I'm Katie Eastman.
That's that.
John plans to continue going back to Fremont Correctional to teach, and he insisted that what he wrote in that obituary was absolutely true. Having those inmates as students has changed his life.
Creating bathtubs to keep I-70 through Glenwood Canyon free of debris.
Really sad to know that that's possible to happen to someone my age.
And young Coloradans offer words of encouragement to Ukrainians who could be their classmates. That's next.
I would not have guessed that bathtubs would be the key to keeping I-70 through Glenwood Canyon clear of debris, but that's way out of my lane. Keeping the rocks out of your lane through the canyon is CDOT's mission for the summertime. So, you know, last year there was that series of mudslides that crashed down from the Grizzly Creek burn scar. CDOT has moved 200,000 tons of mud and rocks off the hillside and out of the river in recent months. And now bathtubs are their next strategy to keep future slides from stopping traffic. These bathtub structures will line the edge of the road, trying to catch the stuff that slides. CDOT is also using something called super sacks that weigh about 3,000 pounds apiece to create a temporary sandbag wall. They say that a similar setup has worked along I-70 at Blue Gulch in Garfield County.
Warmer today with hazy sunshine, smoke from wildfires burning to the south, coming in on southwesterly winds. 73 in Denver, but 81 today in Lamar. We've got high clouds coming in on the southwest flow ahead of a weak weather system that may bring a brief rain shower tomorrow. The winds are very gusty over the higher terrain and in southeastern Colorado, but starting to come down a bit along the Front Range. Fire weather warnings, red flag warnings out for southern Colorado and the eastern plains as we move through Wednesday. Again, a brief shower possible late in the day in eastern Colorado, hoping we can maybe get a little of that moisture here on the ground. Temperatures trending close to 80 on Thursday, windy and cooler Friday, 60s to start the weekend, sunshine, and 70s to end it.
There are packages packed with care in Colorado that are headed for Ukraine, to child refugees specifically. A project of the groups Ukrainians of Colorado, Project Cure, and North Star Academy. Our photojournalist Brian Wendland joined some North Star students as they added personal messages.
Running from war doesn't leave time to grab everything. So the kids at North Star Academy packed care kits for Ukrainian refugees.
There are toothpaste, toothbrushes, hand sanitizer, Band-Aids, and gauze. We want them to have hope, and we want them to feel good.
200 bags full of the essentials.
It makes me actually realize how lucky I am to be in a safe environment.
And in each bag,
Dear Ukrainian friend,
a personal message.
Dear Ukrainians, I am sorry for what is happening to your land. My greatest hope is that the country will be restored and people can go back to their normal lives with no more war.
I know it's not a lot, and I know we have no idea what you're going through over there.
I stand with you during this difficult time. We love you with our hearts. We hope that you make it home safely.
Letters of hope.
And just know that we are on your side and we are praying for you.
Of solidarity.
We hope you are okay. We love you.
And friendship.
And I wish you and your family the best of luck.
200 letters that these kids hope mean as much to the people who get them as the toothpaste and bandages.
I think it makes the people that get the kit know that people are caring about them, like they're praying for them.
We wish you the best. We stand with Ukraine. Sending love from the USA. Dev Patel.
For Next, I'm Brian Wendland.
And if Project Cure sounds familiar, it's because Next viewers raised more than $400,000 for Project Cure to support that Centennial-based nonprofit's work as they continue to ship humanitarian aid, medical aid, to Ukraine. There is an odd piece of feedback, a lot of it's odd, but there's a specifically odd piece of feedback next. Finish with your feedback as always, and Shirley writes in to say, nice vacation beardlet, Kyle. I appreciate the opportunity to have a beardlet for a day or two before the boss says we got to get rid of it. Arterio writes in tonight to say, stop hiding behind the camera and talk to your critics, you fraud. Dude, I'm in front of the camera now. Behind's like over here. Like, this is not an effective way to communicate. It really is not. We'll see you next time.